Egyptian conference, Hadi. On the sidelines of Egypt's conference 2022, the roadmap for the future generations in terms of economy. I'm honored to be having with me Munir Fakhri Abdul, the former Minister of Tourism, Trade and Industry. Thank you very much for being with us today. First of all, the speech that you have made today during the session, the first session for the day. How do you see the importance of having such a conference, a very unique place at the new administrative capital as well?
I think the subject of the whole conference is extremely important at this specific juncture. It is about, essentially, it is about the role, the growing role of the private sector in Egypt,
yes,
and in the Egyptian economy, and executing the development plans of Egypt. So the whole idea is how to empower the private sector, what kind of incentives are needed to gain the confidence of the private sector, and to increase investments and get out of the crisis we're facing.
Yes, and finally, the main point to be having a bigger role for the private sector. How can we be doing that, especially that His Excellency President Assisi spoke about the importance of doing that yesterday, and the facilitations needed to be having more investments coming from the outside world into the Egypt?
Well, there are a lot of challenges, as you can imagine, but I think we have to give incentives. We have to clarify the laws and regulations. We have to facilitate doing business in Egypt. It's a big challenge, but I think we will succeed.
Thank you very much for being with us today, Mr.
خطوة في حياتنا بنحسبها بحسبة الاقتصاد، والقرارات بتحتاج خطة واضحة ترسم طريق لاقتصاد قوي، مرن، تنافسي، صامد في مواجهة الأزمات. في 8 سنين قدرنا نخوض التحدي لبناء الاقتصاد المصري، ولسه قادرين نتحد، نتكامل، نتفق لوضع رؤية للاقتصاد المصري وآليات تعزيزه وفق أفضل الممارسات الدولية. المؤتمر الاقتصادي في الفترة من 23 إلى 25 أكتوبر، فندق المأسة، العاصمة الإدارية الجديدة. خارطة طريق لاقتصاد أكثر تنافسية.
Welcome back. That was our colleague Ahmed Beder. They're attending the Economic Summit for our coverage, and that was his interview with Dr. Munir Fakhri Abdul, who was the former Minister of Tourism, Trade and Industry. Back to you, Dr. Ghoneim. And Dr. Munir Fakhri Abdul said very important issues. He said here that in order to reach what we need, there has to be some of the economic policies, incentives and motivations.
Yeah.
How do you read that? What do we need? What policies do we need in order to be able to attract foreign investments?
I think we must have a look what the countries outside the area, what their policies and rules. We must learn, we must know the competition in the area. If we have a look for Morocco and Dubai as example, they attracting the big investment in the Middle East. I think we must clarifying what we need and which sectors we need to the foreign investments. Yeah, easing the procedures and regulations. We must killing the routines because we haven't clear vision for the investors. I think we must have Ministry of investment. Now, no, if it is authority, it is less than ministry. We must have a big role and a new law of investment. This is the biggest thing. And we must have a roadmap giving some incentives if the investor going in Upper Egypt, if the investor going for renewal energy. We must have, Egypt have a diversity economy. We must concentrate which sectors we must be attracting the foreign investors. And
In terms of, do you mean here that we must see what are exactly the factors that could attract, in terms of, you mean, for instance, the taxation system, incentives that could be given for the investors,
we have
facilities,
a lot of
facilities.
the investment.
What
yeah,
do you mean?
anyway, we must give them the land in a reasonable price. We must give them trained laborers. This is the big issue. We haven't trained people enough for these new industrial zones. We must give them incentives even related with the export size or the export volumes. If your volume for exporting a big volume, you have more incentives. We must have a good correlation between the incentives and the export. Because, you know, as His Excellency said, we need
To increase the export.
yeah, to increase the export, like to reach $100 billion. Now we exporting by the oil and gas around 45 billion. But at that time we importing more than 80 billion. There is a big gap between our import and export. This is who funding this gap, and the gap widening. This is, we must decreasing our import and increasing our export. This is coming with manufacturing, more foreign investment, more
More encouragement.
education. Yeah, we need.
For instance, industry.
Yeah.
Industry. And since we're speaking about industry, there are many opportunities now that we're speaking about for. I mean, here we have the industrial zones.
Yeah, we
complexes.
have big.
We have opportunities.
Yeah.
So if we speak about the existing opportunities, before we go into how to lessen the gap between exports and our imports, what are the existing opportunities for industry in Egypt? For instance, you just spoke about the black sand.
Yeah, we must concentrating what kind of manufacturing we need. We need manufacturing with the products with high added value, not any products. The high
Set
added value,
priorities?
the high added value is technological products. We have the white sand again. The white sand, we can manufacturing from it the photocells, the microchip, and the crystals and the glasses. We have the black sand. We have a lot of things, especially some
Very
strategic manufacturing, like some weapons, aircrafts, and some medical radiation and all these things. This is why we must concentrate what is the added value or the highest added value manufacturing, not going to any manufacturing. This is the thing. The second thing, we must preparing our laborers with high-tech education.
Prepare our calibers. To meet
We have
the
a very
requirements of the
shortage.
market.
We
Yes.
have shortage in the calibers. We have shortage in the experts, in the high-tech and high-tech industry anywhere. This is why and again, we didn't have a very clear plan for marketing ourselves. We cannot marketing ourselves in good manner. Marketing ourselves, we must have a good representatives in our embassies. We must sharing our knowledge with in global organizations, with the media all over the world. Yeah, I think we cannot marketing, even internally, we not marketing for the local investors.
Indeed. So this summit or this conference is meant to empower private sector and call on them to contribute more to our economy, whether the local or the private. Before we go on with our discussion, let me here take our second report. Empowering private sector, an urgent need to revive the Egyptian economy, a call by the leadership and the government. Let's watch.
Egypt needs to enforce already existing laws regulating businesses to attract more investors who would contribute to the country's GDP and economic activity. Minister of Planning and Economic Development Hala Said said at the roundtable session of Egypt Economic Conference that the private sector in Egypt absorbs 78.4% of the workforce in the Egyptian market, adding that the government has taken measures to empower the private sector and raise its contribution to the GDP to 60%. These measures included drafting the state ownership policy document, making amendments to Law No. 67 for 2010 that regulates partnerships between the state and the private sector, enacting Law No. 77 for 2017, particularly with regards to granting the golden license to investors and offering incentives on green investments. The measures also included implementing the competitive neutrality policy, establishing Egypt's sovereign wealth fund, and transforming the Suez Canal economic zone into a global logistics and industrial hub. Meanwhile, economist and former Minister of Investment Ziad Bahauddin said that the business climate in Egypt does not need to draft new laws or regulations. It just needs to revise current ones in the interest of both the state and the investors, and to enact mechanisms for a real implementation of these laws and regulations. Also, CBE's acting governor, Hassan Abdullah, said that the Central Bank of Egypt is working on setting an index for the Egyptian pound that will be linked to a basket of gold and other currencies besides the US dollar. Abdullah explained that since Egypt is a non-oil exporter, there was no need to peg its local currency to the US dollar, adding that the CBE is aiming to change this concept. Abdullah also noted that the CBE has finalized the forward contracts for the Egyptian pound and that it is working on the hedge contracts for the local currencies as a tool to navigate the impacts of the Russian-Ukrainian conflict, which affected the hard currency in the Egyptian market.
Yes, welcome back, and back to you, Dr. Ghoneim. And let me here ask about sectors that can really contribute to our economy. We spoke about exportation, we spoke about attracting foreign investments to Egypt. There is a very important sector that can really contribute to our revenues tremendously. The tourism sector, where we're speaking about a country with all Egypt's abilities and capabilities and what it has. I mean,
diversity.
Egypt has it all. What do we need for this sector to further flourish, to give what we need from it?
I think we need to prepare the environment for the tourism. We must teach the kids from KG1 what is a tourist means, how to respect these people when they came to visit Egypt, how to welcoming them and all these things. We must have policies, clear policies for the tourism. We must attract new markets from different countries. We concentrate since last 10 years on the Russian and Ukrainian low price tourism. When this crisis happened, we lost the major tourist provider to us. We must clarifying.
I mean, there has been some increase in the tourism sector. We have seen many of the flights that have been coming yesterday,
but not full capacity.
or throughout the past. Of course, definitely, where people are reeling from economic worsening situation. So, but that could be also an opportunity. And
Big opportunity, the tourism, the injecting money directly in different ways.
And the difference in currency, and which would really put Egypt as a first attraction. I mean, here, where
Especially in winter. Now, you know, Europe now it is going below zero. Yeah, we must attract all these people there in Egypt, in charter traffics and charter flights, even in Sharm el-Sheikh, in Hurghada in Egypt, in Aswan, in Luxor. We have a lot of diversity places, but I think, again, we are not marketing ourselves. We must.
If I may ask you here, yesterday or this conference is meant to gather experts, businessmen, high-ranking officials.
Different.
Yes, indeed. In order to be able to gather the thoughts all together and put this roadmap. There was this call for urgently holding a kind of committee that consists of many of the experts, along with the governments, officials, and businessmen, in order to arrange.
Cooperation between them.
How do you view that, and how important it has become such an urgent call?
Within this conference, we didn't find any big foreign investors. I think this is a local economic conference. As the global big economic conference, you must invite the biggest CEOs of the multinational companies to attend, because they are capable for injecting billions of dollars in big projects, especially in new and renewable energy and high-tech manufacturing. Again, this conference must have only the roadmap. What is the current state? What is the current state? What is the obstacles and challenges in have this, and what is the kind of roadmap to going to the new situation we need it. Developing policies, developing human being, developing the specialized HR people working in different sectors, concentrating in some tracks. We cannot go in all kind of macroeconomic sectors. We must concentrating what is the highest added value manufacturing, and where this manufacturing going to which governorate. Especially there is some manufacturing must be going to Upper Egypt, some of them going to Sinai, some of them going to West Desert, and all these things. And again, for as we said, there is a food warring now. What kind of food we must produce? What is agricultural?
Agro products.
Yeah, because you know we must. A lot of problems now coming for food, especially the crops.
Yes.
Yeah.
Indeed.
This is why we must concentrate in some sectors, especially the agriculture, the agricultural climatization, and the energy.
Indeed, we need to put priorities for what we need of investments in industries. Unfortunately, my time is out. I have to end it here. Dr. Abdul Wahaab Ghoneim, information technology expert, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you. I think after this conference, we must have a clear vision for the privatization sector to share with the government sector in all mega projects.
Indeed, we need the private sector, we need all partners to contribute. Thank you so much for being with us. And I guess that brings us to the end of this episode. Tomorrow will be another important debate with another colleague. So good night.